So let's consider the development of a wine. Once a wine goes into bottle, the sugars, the acids, the tannins, the anthocyanins in the wine continue to react, they continue to change. Some of these changes can be positive, some of these changes will be negative. Once the wine goes into bottle, once the wine is in bottle, the sugars, the acids, the tannins, the anthocyanins will all continue to react and result in changes in the wine. The colour, the texture, the aroma and flavour will change. Sometimes these are changes One of the assessments that we need to make using the WSET Level 3 Award in Wine's systematic approach to tasting is that of its development. Once a wine goes into bottle, the sugars, the acids, the tannins, the anthocyanins in the wine will continue to react and cause changes in the wine. We refer to these changes as the development of the wine. The colour changes, the texture changes, the aroma and the flavour will change. We can make an assessment of the degree of development or the degree of change on the nose. A wine can either be youthful, developing, fully developed, or tired and past its best. A wine that is youthful will have dominant primary and secondary characteristics. The primary characteristics are those that come from the grape itself and from fermentation. Secondary characteristics are those that have been added by the winemaker, most specifically the use of oak. Tertiary characteristics are those characteristics that will develop in bottle. These are typically dried fruit characteristics or nutty notes. The lexicon goes into some detail. The lexicon gives examples of potential tertiary characteristics. A youthful wine will be dominant in primary and secondary characteristics. A developing wine will show. A youthful wine will only have primary and secondary characteristics. A developing wine will also show tertiary characteristics. A fully developed wine will only show A youthful wine will only have primary and secondary characteristics. A developing wine will have primary and secondary characteristics, but there will also be a degree of tertiary characteristics in the wine. A fully developed wine will have dominant tertiary characteristics. A wine that is tired or past its best will have such a high degree of tertiary characteristics that it has become unpleasant to drink. By examining the vintage, you will have a good idea of what... By examining the vintage, you will have a good idea of the wine's development. By examining the vintage, you will have a good idea of the wine's development stage. However, this is also an assessment that you can make on the nose. Examples of youthful wines might be something from a recent vintage within 1 or 2 years. Wines generally start to show some development, that is, a degree of tertiary characteristics, after 3 years. The age at which a wine will show its the age after which a wine becomes fully developed or tired will very much depend on the wine. A good example of a developing wine might be a Rioja, Reserva or Gran Reserva, which undergo extended aging in barrel and in bottle. Examples of fully developed wines might be wines such as sherries and ports, which undergo extremely long aging periods before they are bottled and released for sale. Examples of youthful wines might be wines. The vast majority of wines that you will buy from a supermarket might fall into the youthful category, particularly Pinot Grigios, Sauvignon Blancs and Chardonnays. But if you look for wines that are 3 to 5 to 10 years old, these are likely to be developing. So let's put some of this into practice. I have a wine here. So let's put some of this into practice. This is a Chardonnay that's 2 years old. I am therefore expecting that it will show youthful swirl and sniff and make an assessment of the aromas. So this is quite pronounced in its intensity, very pronounced in its intensity, but it is absolutely dominant in primary fruit characteristics. Apple, banana, mango, peach, apple, mango, banana, peach, and we've got a huge amount of secondary characteristics as well. There's vanilla and there's cedar here. Baking spice characteristics. There's even some coconut too. So I know that this wine has been fermented in barrel in order to give it this extra character. I'm not, however, picking up any tertiary characteristics at all. There's no dried fruit, there's no nuts. So I'm going to make the assessment that this is a youthful wine. That absolutely makes sense. It's a 2022 Chardonnay. Currently we're in... That absolutely... That absolutely makes sense. It's only a 2-year-old wine. That absolutely makes sense. It's only a 2-year-old wine, so I wouldn't expect it to be showing any tertiary characteristics just now, and therefore it is not showing any development. It is a youthful wine.